Hi, this is Ms. Wright, and I'm going to go over the theme of insanity in Romeo and Juliet. And I have here are some examples from the play that relate to the idea that insanity motivates some of the characters, especially Romeo. This play takes place in mid-July, and many Elizabethans believe that the hot weather brought on a type of midsummer madness. Here is an example from Act 1, Scene 1, when Benvolio is trying to find out what's wrong with Romeo. Why has he been behaving so strangely? And we would later on find out that he's in love with a girl named Rosaline who does not return his affection. But in this speech, Romeo says that he is in love, and he talks about love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs, being purged a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes, being vexed a sea nourished with lovers' tears. What else is it? A madness most discreet, a choking gall, and a preserving sweet. Farewell, my coz. So you can see that Romeo is the one who introduces the idea of madness, and he says love is a madness, most discreet, a choking gall, a preserving sweet, and love is confusing, disorienting, to the point of making one feel as though he has gone a little crazy. Benvolio in Scene 2 of Act 1 says, "Why, Romeo, art thou mad?" Romeo responds, "Not mad, but bound more than a madman is, shut up in prison, kept without my food, whipped and tormented, and God den, good fellow." So Romeo again talks about madness. Here, Benvolio has tapped into the idea of madness. So there's definitely something wrong with Romeo, and both of them liken it to a type of perhaps temporary insanity. By Act 2, Scene 1, Mercutio has tapped into the idea of insanity, and he says, "Ah, that same pale-hearted wench, that Rosaline tormented him so that he will sure run mad. Nay, I'll conjure too. Romeo, humorous, madman, passion, lover, appear thou in the likeness of a sigh." So you have this um, repeating of the idea of being insane due to love. And when you see an author keep coming back to an idea, he or she is working on something. We know that it becomes a motif as it's repeated throughout the story, and the motif can lead to the theme, help us to begin to shape our ideas about what may be a possible theme in the work. In Act 3, Benvolio reminds us about the midsummer madness when he says, "I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the capital's abroad, and if we meet, we shall not escape a brawl. For now these days is the mad blood stirring." So Benvolio here is reminding us about how the heat affects people and makes them a little crazy in the summertime. And we also see this as a foreshadowing, because soon thereafter, Tybalt will appear looking for Romeo, and we will have the turning point of the play with the death of Mercutio and the death of Tybalt. In Act 3, after the death of the two young men, the friar talks to Romeo, and he also brings up the idea of madness or insanity when he says, "Too fond madman, hear me but speak a word. O thou wilt speak against again of banishment. And the friar continues by saying, "Oh, then I see that madmen have no ears." And so twice the friar brings up the idea that Romeo is acting as though he's crazy, acting as though he is insane. In Act 4, Juliet also begins to talk about madness. Juliet says, "Lie festering in his shroud, where, as they say, at some hour in the night spirits resort. Alack, alack, it is not like that I, so early waking, what with loathsome smells and shrieks like mandrakes torn out of the earth, that living mortals hearing them run mad, or if I wake shall not be distraught, environed with all these hideous fears, and madly play with my forefather's joints, and pluck the mangled Tybalt from his shroud." So here Juliet is actually envisioning herself going mad if she wakes too early while locked in the tomb waiting for Romeo to appear, and she visualizes herself going into madness. She even envisions herself playing with the bones of her dead ancestors, and she'll later say that she might beat herself in the head with her ancestors' bones. So she really uh, describes a descent into madness from being locked in the tomb. Okay, so we've had several characters at this point describe what it might be like to go mad or see madness in Romeo, Romeo seeing madness in himself. In the final act of the play, Romeo is confronted by Paris at the tomb, and he wants not to fight Paris. Paris sees him, wants to apprehend him because he knows that Romeo will be executed if caught, and he believes Romeo to be some kind of crazy person who is there to do damage to the tomb of the Montagues, of the Capulets rather, and Romeo begs him to go away and to leave him be, and he says, "For I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, begone, live, and hereafter say a madman's mercy bade thee run away." So once again, Romeo refers to himself as a madman, someone who is not acting right or thinking correctly at all. My last example is also by Romeo when he says, "He told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in sour misfortune's book." And here's madness again. So he wonders if he has gone completely crazy. And to think of everything that has happened in the last 4 or 5 days, the swiftness of the love, the speediness of the marriage, the catastrophe, the of having killed, seen his best friend killed, and then killing Tybalt. All these things would make a person wonder if he or she is still in his or her right mind. Here are some other themes and motifs that you might want to consider tracing. And in order to consider it to be a motif, it really needs to appear several times in the work. Can't just appear once or twice, because motifs actually help to make the work cohesive, to hold it together by repeating ideas from act to act to act, or from chapter to chapter to chapter. We saw that in the Odyssey with the Agamemnon motif that kept reappearing throughout the epic. So I have appearance versus reality. If you look throughout this play, you'll see many times references to situations where the character is talking about how things appeared, but yet they were not real. Dreams also kind of relate to this. Dreams are mentioned numerous times. Fate is a theme, and we know that there are many references to fate, especially when you see talk of stars. Stars are symbols of fate. The hands motif that occurs in the play starts when Romeo and Juliet um, meet, and Romeo wants to touch Juliet's hand. Hastiness or rashness is a motif here, and the friar is often telling Romeo to slow down, and yet it's not enough. Hatred, violence, and death are definitely themes here. Lots of evidence for that. The light imagery, remember every time Romeo sees Juliet, he thinks of her in terms of light. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. And even before that, when he first laid eyes upon her, he says, "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright." And then the parent-child conflict, obviously, is a idea that continues throughout this play. We also have problems with communication. The letters. The letters are a motif in this play. I'm going to add letters here because I don't have them. Letters are definitely a motif, and they represent communication, attempts to communicate, but the communication is often thwarted. And then the significance of the various characters' names and timing. Everything, if you think about a lot of the events in here, are relying on time. The 39 hours that were lost while Friar John was locked in a house of pestilence, the 42 hours Juliet will sleep. Juliet is about to wake in 3 hours. So time is very important, and there's never seems to be enough time, which is the story of my life, by the way. So that's all I have to say about the theme of madness or insanity in Romeo and Juliet. I hope this helps you when you start to think about how you will do your written response. Okay? Have a great day. Shout out to all my awesome students. The year's not over, but we're on that downward slope. Okay? I'll see you back in class. Bye bye.